Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards.
If you're listening to this podcast, then you're in great company. We've got thousands of listeners who have a thirst for continual improvement and raising standards in business. Whether your interest is in quality, sustainability, or risk standards, I'd love to welcome you as a member to our online platform for all things ISO, the ISology Hub. The ISology Hub is the leading place to get access to all of your online resources, from in-depth training courses, through to our very popular coffee break training, to templates and action plans and many other resources to help raise standards. As a member, you get access to over 100 courses, taking you from learner to practitioner to leader. The ISology Hub has all the resources that you need, which will really help to make your life easier and to help improve compliance in those business critical areas. So if you'd like access to learning and compliance resources ranging from data privacy to environmental management, anti-bribery, business continuity, quality, health and safety, to name just but a few, the list is endless actually, then we'd love you to come and join us. Just head over to the isologyhub.com.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Churchman, and I'm the Communications Manager here at Blackmores. Today, we're going to take a deeper dive into an emerging risk that has steadily become integrated into our everyday lives, that being AI and what considerations you need to make before utilising AI tools. Now, full transparency, this will be a fairly light touch on the topic, but should provide you with plenty of food for thought for how you should go about vetting and integrating AI tools within your business. So, whether you've got ISO 27001 in place, or are maybe working towards ISO 42001, or simply just care about information security as a whole, you should get some inspiration from this episode. Now, to set the scene, data breaches have tripled since the wide adoption of AI in early 2024, and studies are saying there is a clear link between these two events. Here in the UK alone, 32% of businesses experienced a cyber attack or data breach in 2023. Compared to 43% of businesses in 2025, with us already steadily on track to surpass that in 2026. That is a staggering amount of data that is being exposed and possibly exploited, with it only increasing year on year. While not all of this can be blamed on AI alone, it's important to know that AI can just as easily be leveraged by bad actors as it can be by people simply looking to be more efficient. Does this mean that people shouldn't use AI at all? No, of course not. But we do need far more caution before you simply start using a tool. For example, here's a few recent incidents that you may have heard about. Starting with the ChatGPT copycat. There was a ChatGPT clone available as a web extension that was downloaded by some 1.5 million users. It functioned just like ChatGPT, answered queries and provided links to legit sources, but in the background it was scraping passwords and gathering information that was to be sold off without the user's knowledge. This isn't unique. Imitation apps for other software have faced similar issues, due to browsers or app stores not properly vetting who is putting what in their environments. So it's up to users to remain vigilant to ensure they are downloading the correct application. That shouldn't be the case, but sadly, that's where we're at. Another incident you may remember is back in 2025. Sage, the popular accounting software, had to temporarily suspend its Sage Copilot after a data isolation flaw occurred. This incident caused an issue where users who prompted the AI to list recent invoices ended up incorrectly surfacing financial records belonging to completely unrelated businesses. Obviously, this was a major security issue, especially for an application thousands of businesses rely on to track their financial records. Thankfully, Sage was really quick to act and fix this issue. However, many can be forgiven for being hesitant to utilize its AI features after this incident. I think I'd certainly think twice, and personally, I'd be asking questions about what they're doing to ensure nothing like this ever happens again. One that I think went under the radar was at the start of this year, 2026. That was when Google Gemini was found to have been abused by bad actors for data reconnaissance. Various hacking groups are still weaponizing the tool to speed up various phases of a typical cyber attack lifecycle. This enables mass gathering of information on their potential victims and even constructing model extraction attacks. And if you're not sure what that is, it's basically where someone repeatedly queries an AI model to deduce its internal logic, proprietary training data, or its model weights. One particular group were building profiles on major cybersecurity and defense companies, and were looking to gather specific technical job roles and salary information. Google's threat intelligence team characterized this activity as a blurring of boundaries between professional research and malicious reconnaissance. Their soft-touch approach allowed the bad actors to craft tailored phishing personas and to further identify potential soft targets to compromise. I know that sounds quite harsh, but ultimately it is the platform's responsibility to put the necessary guardrails in place to stop this sort of activity, and many just simply aren't doing it fast enough. While Google are trying to get better and faster at identifying misuse of their platform, it's a platform that's used by hundreds of thousands of people every day. There are going to be people and incidents that slip through the cracks. I could go on, and there is honestly a frankly terrifying list of breaches and cyber attacks as a result of either malicious use of AI or simply the AI not functioning correctly. So this is what I want to focus on next, giving you some guidance on what considerations you and your business should be making before using an AI tool. It's got to the point where many are unavoidable. They're baked into browsers and common applications like Word and Excel, though these don't tend to be too invasive for the time being. Taking the ISO approach, elements of information security standards can go a long way in ensuring you take the right steps to stay as safe as possible, including clear vetting procedures for AI tools and clear rules for use. Which sounds simple, but when you have more than, say, 50 employees, it can be really hard to keep track of who is using what. A key step many miss is actually evaluating tools before use and not after. There is plenty you need to check before allowing the use of an application that may require integration with existing data to work as intended. First, ask yourself, is the tool I want to use A, relevant, B, safe, and C, ethical? Ethical is the crucial one here, depending on what you're using an AI for. Let's take CV sorting, for example. Many studies have shown that AIs can have an inherited bias based on their training data. This has also now evolved into AI-based recruitment tools, preferring AI-generated CVs over human-written ones. In a recent study by Robert H. Smith's School of Business, they found that systems selected their own generated resumes more frequently than original human-written submissions. From a safety standpoint, think about the data that you're feeding into those recruitment tools. That's personally identifiable information. Full names, phone numbers, emails, and possibly even addresses. It's a full profile for an individual. Is that system you're using closed? Do you know if you consented to having any input data used for further training? Don't just assume that inputted data won't be used beyond your control. It's more important than ever to read the terms and conditions for these tools. For as much as they want to help, they are still a business at the end of the day, and it's a business that relies on data to continually train and improve its own systems. If that recruitment tool gets hacked, who do you think is liable for the breach? Is it the AI tool developer? Is it the business that input the data? Is it the cloud hosting provider? You think the answer would be clear, but the legality in all of this is still being debated. AI has outpaced the law, and while it is catching up with the likes of the EU AI Act, there is still a long way to go. Not helped with each country setting its own precedents with each AI-related case being fought in court. As you can see, there is a lot to factor in when making these decisions. So here's a few things you can do before committing to an AI tool to help stay safe. Number 1. Have an AI policy and AI integration approval process in place. Many businesses will already have an AI policy in place. Most are very generic. So this is where I implore you to look at the guidance provided by ISO 42001 to see what good looks like for an AI policy. If you'd like to learn more about the AI management standard as a whole, then you can check out a previous webinar we have available on YouTube. I'll link that in the show notes. Next, you don't just want people to download random AI tools and start integrating them with systems that may have access and process data. A lot of people do this without thinking, simply looking for a more efficient way of working. But as with any software, it should go through an approval process before use first. The following are tips that you should include as checks before a tool is widely adopted for your business. Number 2, understand where your data actually goes. Find out whether inputs are used to train the vendor's models. These inputs can include things like prompts, uploaded files, or even customer data, depending on what the tool is used for. You also need to find out how long that data is being retained, and whether it's stored in a specific jurisdiction. If it's in an EU-based server, you'll be offered more protections than a US-based server in terms of control of data. You can look for these answers in a data processing agreement. Don't just rely on the marketing blurb that they state on the website. If those answers aren't provided, contact the tool's support or basic inquiries to find out. Don't just leave it hanging in the air. Asking these questions is just as important for free tools as it is for paid tools. As is often the case, if a product is too good to be true, then you are the product. Be careful with what information you allow freely available tools to use, and put them under the same scrutiny you would for something that you would pay for. Number 3. Check for a SOC 2, ISO 27001, or equivalent certification. This is a really easy check for a vendor's security posture. Absence of certification shouldn't automatically disqualify a vendor or tool, but it should prompt more due diligence, not less. And even with the certification in place, you also need to double-check that it's valid. ISO 27001, for example, they will need to be certified by a UCAS-accredited certification body for those in the UK. For overseas, you will have your own ISO accreditation bodies, which can be verified on the IAF website, which I'll link in the show notes. Ensuring that these certifications are valid means that they have secured meaningful and honest third-party evaluation of their processes, giving you some confidence in the handling of data. But this by no means should be your only qualifier. Number 4. Map out third-party and sub-processor risk. Most AI tools sit on top of other infrastructure like cloud hosting, underlying foundation models, and other additional analytics tools. You should ask for a sub-processor list to fully understand who else touches that data. This is something that you should do for any IT tool regardless of AI integration. If you have either ISO 27001 or ISO 42001 in place, you likely already have a process in place to check and manage this. Number 5. Test for prompt injection and data leakage. If the tool interacts with external content such as emails, documents, or web pages, it can potentially be manipulated by malicious instructions hidden in that content. Businesses should ask vendors how they mitigate this and ideally how they test it themselves. As if it weren't already a headache trying to ensure that staff don't click on things they shouldn't, now you will have to consider the very real possibility of an AI tool following a hidden prompt to access information it shouldn't and potentially send it off to some unknown party. This is why it's important to check that safety measures have been put in place to prevent this. Tip number 6. Clarify access controls and permission scoping. This is especially the case for AI agents or tools with system integrations. You need to establish if the tool operates with the same permissions as the user or whether it has broader access. Overprivileged AI agents may operate independently with no human oversight, which is a frighteningly dangerous concept. Human in the loop has become a common phrase within cybersecurity for a reason. You always need a point of human oversight to ensure that AI is doing what it's supposed to be doing and is doing so safely. Number 7. Ask about model update and versioning transparency. You need to ensure that the vendor won't just silently swap out the underlying model for its AI tools. Why? Because this can introduce sudden behavior changes in the tool itself, which can then introduce new additional risks, such as different failure models and different data handling. Transparency is a key component of emerging AI security frameworks and regulations such as ISO 42001 and the EU AI Act. If a vendor isn't willing to tell you when they're making major changes to their tools, then it's not a vendor you want to entertain. It's not just an issue of trust, but rather one of denying you the option to put the proper measures in place to protect both you and your customers' data. Tip number 8. Evaluate the output reliability and hallucination risk in context. For security or compliance AI tools, factually wrong outputs are a risk. For those that may not be aware, hallucinations in AI simply refer to when it produces incorrect or made-up data but presents it as fact. You may have heard of cases where lawyers used AI to help find case precedents for trials, only to find that the cases provided by AI never existed at all. You can see why this might pose a serious risk. especially if you're using a tool to help maintain your own data security or manage compliance. So ask the vendor what guardrails exist and whether their tool's outputs are auditable or traceable. They should know what data was used to train their models, or where its models are pulling data from. If they don't or can't control what data is being used, then it's not a tool you can 100% trust. Number 9. Review incident response and breach notification commitments. In basic terms, this just means that if the vendor is breached, do you know how quickly you'll be notified and what their recovery process looks like? This one is a no-brainer, that again you really should be asking of any tech-related supplier. If you hold ISO 27001 and ISO 22301, or simply have a business continuity plan in place, then you will already have similar procedures in place for peace of mind for your own customers, so why should you settle for any less? And just like your clients would expect, breach notifications and expected recovery times should be contractually defined, not just assumed. Of course, you can't always account for that being 100% accurate depending on how bad an incident is, but again, they should have a defined process for keeping you updated with what's happening, what data has been affected, and how long those expected recovery times may be. Tip number 10. Consider the supply chain risk of the vendor itself. This tech is still relatively new, and so newer AI vendors may have smaller security teams and less mature processes than what you may be used to with more established providers. However, a startup pace doesn't mean you have to tolerate a startup risk. Consider all of the previously mentioned steps. If they don't have a lot of that in place, then they may not be mature enough yet for you to go ahead with. This doesn't mean that you have to automatically disqualify them. If they have a clear plan of action for growth which shows a clear focus on increased security and transparency within a reasonable timeframe, then it's still worth considering. I suppose it will really depend on how niche the tool is. If they're a startup filling a very specific need, you may be limited on other options. So in that case, it's ultimately up to you if it's worth the risk. And then lastly, tip number 11, AI tool monitoring and kill switch. As I mentioned earlier, you need to have an established vetting procedure for any AI tool you plan on introducing, but you should also have a process in place to continuously monitor these tools as well. Many AI tools aren't static. They'll update and become better, or possibly introduce risks and issues as they inevitably face bugs and other technical problems as they roll out updates. You will need to keep an eye on this. If a tool is prone to bugs on updates, then monitoring this will flag it up as a security risk to keep an eye on, or worst case scenario, you simply stop using it. And that's where the kill switch comes in. If an AI tool is going awry for any reason, it's important that you know how to isolate it and remove it from your systems. AI tools are a bit more ingrained than your typical software, often designed to work in tandem with existing apps rather than as a standalone system. This will mean that some tools have access to possibly sensitive data, something that needs to be protected if the AI tool experiences issues that could lead to that data being compromised. The relevant staff, likely your IT team, need to have a clear process for what to do in those scenarios, including how to isolate the AI, remove it, and then notifying any affected users if the data has been compromised in any way. And that's it for now. As I said, this was very light touch. You can go very in-depth with all of this, but to start with, it's worth considering these steps before jumping into integrating AI tools. We're facing a very complex data security landscape, one that is only going to get more sophisticated with time, both with the aid and hindrance of AI. Just make sure you do your due diligence and follow best practice, as that's all we can do. As always, if you can like and subscribe on your preferred media player, we would really appreciate it. Leaving a nice, shiny 5-star review would be amazing, as this helps us to reach a wider audience. If you have any topics that you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please feel free to email us at inquiries@blackmoresuk.com. That's it from me today. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights with you on the next ISO show.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.